Hi guys, welcome to Algebra 1/2, Lesson 88. So we are going to be looking at really some very simple concepts. This is basically just a reminder of solving equations. So if I have x plus 5 equals 7, remember from our rule that in order to get x by itself, you have to do the opposite of whatever you're doing, which would be subtracting 5 since we're adding 5. Or we could also look at it as adding a negative 5. So our book just wants to highlight that you can look at it as adding a negative 5 to both sides and write it in this format, which is a format that I have already been using, so this is not totally new to you. So this cancels out the 5s on both sides, and I'm left with x equals 7 plus a negative 5 would be a positive 2. Then you put that in to check it. 2 plus 5 equals 7. 7 equals 7, it checks out. X equals 2 is your answer. Now really, this is the form you should be using, checking everything and then circling your final answer. Most of you guys are not doing that, okay? You need to be checking it. Just because I'm not requiring checking doesn't mean that you shouldn't be. So this is the form that I really want to be seeing. And you may or may not be losing points when I don't see you doing all of the work. So just to let you know that, okay? All right. So here I have 2x plus 1/2 equals 3/4. So this rule still goes even when you have fractions, that you're adding a negative. And you don't have to write it on the same line, you can write it below. So I have negative 1/2, negative 1/2. Here they cancel out and I'm left with 2x equals. Now here, before I can find the right answer, they need to have the same denominator. But that's really easy, because their common denominator is 4, so up here doesn't change, I still have 3/4. Down here, my least common denominator would be 4, so 2 times 2 is 4, 1 times 2 is 2. So it's minus 2/4, or plus a negative 2/4, so that leaves me at 1/4. Divide both sides by 2. So remember, when I divide by a whole number, but I'm working with fractions, what do? Flip-flop and multiply. So I multiply this by the reciprocal. Flip-flop it, put the 2 on the bottom, so it's times 1/2. So x equals 1/8. Okay? Then you would put this back in place of x, multiply, simplify. I'm not going to do it right now just for time, okay? But you should be doing it on your paper. Now, the other part that your book wants to draw your attention to would be when you have negative coefficients. Now, your book adds an extra step for solving with negative coefficients. I don't think the extra step is necessary. In fact, I think the extra step causes more confusion than just doing it like you have it. So, I'm just going to caution you to pay careful attention when you have negatives. You have to remember your negative rule. So I have negative 3x equals 12. I know I need to divide by negative 3 to get x by itself. So just be careful. Here, your negatives totally cancel out and you're left with x. Here I have 12 divided by a negative 3. Since I have a positive and a negative, my answer is going to be negative. 12 divided by 3 is 4, so x equals negative 4. Place negative 4 in place of x, multiply, and make sure you get positive 12 as your answer. Let's try one more. Negative 3x plus 4 equals 10. Well, we start out by adding a negative 4 to both sides to get rid of that 4. I'm left with 3x, negative 3x, excuse me, equals 10 minus 4 is 6. Divide both sides by a negative 3. I'm left with x equals positive 6 divided by negative 3. My answer will be a negative 2. Okay, go ahead and pause now and do your practice, bottom of page 248. Okay, you should have finished with your practice. Letter A, you got x equals negative 2. Letter B, I want to look at with you really quickly just to make sure that you understood this one. You have negative 3x plus 1/2 equals 3/8. You need to subtract 1/2 from both sides. In order to do that, you need a common denominator over here. Here, you'll just be left with negative 3x. Over here, the least common denominator for for 8 and 2 is 8. Very good. So my top fraction doesn't change at all, but my bottom one does. 2 times 4 equals 8, so 4 times 1 equals 4, and this is negative, just like it was over here. 3 minus 4. Well, we know from our negative rules that I subtract. 4 minus 3 is 1. My greater absolute value would be the 4, so it's still negative. Negative 1/8. Now I divide both sides by a negative 3. Divide by negative 3. Since I have a fraction involved, that means I need to do what to divide? Multiply by the reciprocal. So I multiply, not by negative 3, but by negative 1/3. So I'm left with x equals, well, 2 negatives. When I multiply 2 negatives, I get a positive answer. 1 times 1 is 1, and 8 times 3 is 24. So x equals 1/24. All right, let me know if you have any questions about this concept, and I'll see you in our next lesson. Bye.